What is a BIOS attack? In this lesson, we will build a clear picture of how firmware works, why a BIOS or UEFI attack is so powerful, and how we defend against it. A BIOS attack is when an adversary corrupts or replaces the low-level firmware code that starts your computer. That is the BIOS or modern UEFI, so the attacker runs before the operating system and can persist even after reinstalling the operating system. First, what is BIOS or UEFI? It is firmware stored on a flash chip on your motherboard. When you power on, the firmware initializes the hardware, then hands control to the bootloader, which loads the operating system. And then your apps run on top of the operating system. So how does a BIOS attack work? An attacker finds a vulnerability or uses physical access to overwrite the firmware on the flash chip. The malicious firmware, often called a bootkit, runs first before the operating system, so it can hide from antivirus, steal passwords or disk keys, and tamper with what loads next. Why is this so dangerous? 3 reasons. Persistence. It survives reinstalling the operating system or replacing the disk. Stealth. It runs beneath the operating system, so most tools never see it. Control. It can disable secure boot checks or inject code into loaders. How do we defend? Secure boot and measured boot. Cryptographically verify each stage before it runs. Use a BIOS password and hardware write protection jumpers. So flashing requires authorization or physical changes. Apply only signed firmware updates from your vendor and keep them current. In short, a BIOS attack tampers with the very first code your PC runs. That grants persistence, stealth, and control. Protect yourself with secure or measured boot, strong update hygiene, and firmware write protections.